Okay,
That's
I
where
got
it
it.
is. And everybody else.
Go back.
Okay.
Use the beginning.
All right.
All right, you guys know I'm Officer Wolf, and I just want to thank you guys again for helping out this quarter for this class, and this is the final stretch. As LEOs, we see a side of the world that many people do not see, and with that, we see firsthand the effects of legalizing recreational marijuana. So, who watched the election this year? Pretty intense, right? Awesome. I don't want to know who Trump, who Hillary, whatever, but did you guys know that there was more on the ballot than just who the next president is going to be? 7 other states actually legalized marijuana in some way or another. As you guys know, Colorado legalized marijuana in 2012 to include recreational marijuana. But does anybody know the real dangers of actually legalizing recreational marijuana? Honestly. No. Well, marijuana is a drug, whether people like to admit it or not. And as with any drug, there can be dependency. A University of Arizona actually, or Arkansas actually did a study and did a correlation between homelessness rate and drug dependency. And of course, there is some connection there. Has anybody gone to Denver or Colorado Springs and seen the homelessness rate kind of skyrocket in the past couple of years? The Journal of Family Practice actually conducted a study on the hazards of the high when it comes to recreational marijuana. One of the things that they realized was that there was actually a lower quality of life. Physical and mental health was ranked lower among those who heavily used marijuana than those who only use it occasionally. I have a younger sister who's 23, and she is your typical pothead. She works, but her quality of life is low. I can see the correlation between the study and their findings because every day she's got something else going on. She's not always meeting the wrong type of person. She never has enough energy to go out and do things. She never has enough money because the extra money that she does get, she blows on weed. And she works at a chow hall on a Navy base. Everybody has heard the thing of, well, marijuana enhances your mood, right? Makes you mellow, you don't do anything. Well, that's actually not true. Research suggests that marijuana prompts the development and worsens anxiety, depression, and suicidally. Violence, paranoia, and borderline personality also has been associated with the use of recreational marijuana. Thanks, the next slide. Okay, for this bottom one, who here has heard the crime rate has gone down since legalization of marijuana? All right, everybody's heard that, right? Well, it's actually, factually, that's not true. Huffington Post actually did an article actually going into depth of the actual crime rate. From 2012 to 2013, the crime rate jumped 9%. It doesn't seem like a lot, but obviously this is falsified information. Public drunkenness rose actually 237%. Drug violations rose 20%. From 2006 to 2014, marijuana-related traffic deaths actually increased by 154%. Marijuana-related hospital visits showed a 77% increase, and from 2008 to 2014, drug-related suspensions, expulsions, actually rose 40% in schools. Knowing these facts, what can we do? It's already legalized here in here in Colorado, but what about those of you that are residents in other states? What can you do? Some of the things that you can do is actually talk to your local representatives, voice your concerns about potentially legalizing recreational marijuana in your state. There are some benefits to medical marijuana, but there's more negatives associated with recreational marijuana than the public actually knows. And for those of you that do reside here in Colorado, some of the things that you can do is warn your family and friends of the hazards of smoking recreational marijuana. You know, let them know, hey, there are bad things that can happen to you if you do smoke. Be responsible. It's like with any other drug, like alcohol. There's going to be consequences if you drink too much or use too much or anything like that. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, marijuana is no different than alcohol. That may be, but have you guys realized that there hasn't been any longevity or longitudinal studies conducted on recreational marijuana use? Have you guys actually realized that? With alcohol, we've had decades of research studies to show the negatives of drinking too much or DUIs and stuff like that, but there hasn't been as much scientific studies with marijuana use. One of the reasons why is because most of the studies are actually federally funded, and you can't, with a federally funded study, you can't have them smoke an illegal substance in the study. They wouldn't get their money if they did that. What would happen if we did our part and made changes, the ones either here for Colorado residents or for those in other states? Like I said before, the main thing is just inform and educate people. This is actually from a marijuana-related traffic death. So these things do happen. You'll hear people that say, well, it doesn't happen. Well, it does happen. And one of the things is that marijuana stays in your system for a lot longer period than it is with alcohol. Even though you might not feel the effects, it's still in your bloodstream. But anyways, the biggest thing is just inform the people that there are hazards when it comes to recreational marijuana. Just educate yourself, educate the people that you know. It's not that it's the worst thing out there, but people are being misguided when it comes to media outlets and saying, oh, marijuana's not that bad, it's better than alcohol. I think some of the things that can be done here in the state is, everybody's heard of AA meetings for alcoholics, right?
Yep.
Well, I think there should be something along those lines for marijuana use. You can get, it's a drug, you can get addicted to it. I think if they were to inform people better and then have programs set aside for those who are addicted to some form or another, to get them help in some way or another, whatever they need. I think that's going to be something that's going to be coming down the line with more studies. Well, you can go next one. This is the information that I have for you guys. I hope I've informed you a little bit more of recreational marijuana use. But now this is our time for questions.
Do you think that it's possible that the reason they're reporting that crime, I guess you could say, went down, is because before you were citing people or you were arresting people for marijuana, and now when you take that off, I mean, on paper it looks like there's less crime, but in reality, crime's still there. Mm-hmm. You're just not, charging people for it.
On the article I read from Huffington Post, they went into why the numbers that they have are lower. It's because we all know NIBRs, and then you have the UCR report.
Crime report?
Yep.
Right.
Well, what they were doing is for the UCR, they pick there's like 35 different crime categories. They'd only pick one. instead of going over all of the crimes and calculating them together, they'd only pick one section and say, well, you know, the crime rate's gone down in this section, but they're not listing all of the different categories of crime.
Right.
That's why they're reporting the numbers low.
Okay.
Which one's more potent, alcohol or THC?
And it's gonna be in the quantities.
Right, so which one has a bigger effect than it does at the same amount of quantity? Does it take more alcohol to affect you than it does THC?
I think it's gonna depend on, kinda like what we learned the other day, is dependent on their body type, their gender. I mean, all that's gonna play into play, and how much it takes them to get drunk or how much it takes them to get high. With each person, it's gonna be different, so not everybody's gonna react the same way. One person can have one drink and be shit-faced, and another person can take one joint and just be fine. But it's all gonna depend on how that person's body's gonna react.
Well, the reason I asked that, I know I've had conversations with people about it, and they always like to relate marijuana to alcohol, and they're like, well, lots of people, you know, are homeless or whatever because of alcoholism, or there's thousands of accidents a year that are alcohol related.
Mhm.
And, you know, I always, you know, try to counter it with my easiest argument, which is, thousands more have died from marijuana when you start adding in the whole concept of drug wars, right?
Mhm.
Bringing stuff across the board and everything. And now, since we're taking money out of their pocket, it's getting even worse because that's less cut on their end.
Mhm.
Not that I feel bad that we're taking money out of their pocket, but, you know, it's just the whole concept of where the other violence is. It's not just a community kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, there's actually, I'm talking to some local PD, and they were actually saying that, the marijuana crime rate has kind of gone down, but those drug dealers that were once selling marijuana are now having to sell harsher drugs or commit, you know, violent offenses because they're not making a living, and these aren't the type of people that are gonna go out there and get a 9 to 5. They're gonna get the easiest money they can, so that's part of the reason why the crime rate has actually gone up in the city and in Denver. Any other questions? Come on, somebody.
Do you have any on you so we can do a control burn?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Alright.
I got a question. When do you think that these studies will start taking effect on population? I mean,
The longitudinal studies are ones that are gonna take, I mean, that's over decades.
so it's gonna take a long time then.
I think it's gonna take a while, because they're starting to see an increase in the homelessness rate, and it's only by doing studies. And it's, we're going into year 4, almost year 5 of with it being legalized. So it's not even close to, the depth that the study needs to be, or studies need to be.
So it's just like alcohol, it's just gonna have to,
They pass it without realizing, oh, well, hey, what about the what about the negatives? Or the negative outcomes that's gonna happen?
only time will tell.
Only time's gonna tell what's gonna happen.
Are they using any of the revenue from the money that they're getting out
Now,
of it to help
one
out
of my
with
other
that problem?
professors, because everybody's like, oh, you know, Colorado's making millions of dollars, you know, from revenue from the pot industry. Well, one of the professors is a judge, at one of the counties around Denver, and it's actually, the money is actually not going to the appropriate places that it's supposed to be going to. It's being pocketed.
Sounds about right.
No, we don't get congressman vote for me.
Well, I think that's it for me.
Alright.